Sometimes Pokemon have different forms, alternate versions of themselves, and some of these Pokemon forms can be caught, while others can't. Sawsbuck, for example, has 4 different forms depending on the season, and you can catch each one of these forms as if they were distinct Pokemon. Burmy has different forms depending on the environment it's in, which affect the typing and stats of its evolution. You can catch all of these Burmy forms separately. But some alternate Pokemon forms cannot be caught or possessed, like Morpeko's Hangry form. Even if you try to catch it, the Pokemon in your possession will just end up being regular Morpeko. This is because the Hangry form is an in-battle transformation. Morpeko changes forms every turn thanks to its ability Hunger Switch. If an alternate Pokemon form can only be activated during a battle, that means you cannot actually catch or possess that specific Pokemon form outside of battle in your party or box. These Pokemon forms refuse to be reduced to mere possessions and have an indomitable will of their own, which is very brave and respectable. Why don't we take a look at a few of these uncatchable Pokemon forms and analyze the value they might be able to provide to us as a society? But before we continue, I would like to thank Rocket Money for sponsoring this video. Everything feels more expensive these days, and managing our finances has never been more difficult between different bank accounts, all these digital apps, and manually trying to keep a budget. It's all so overwhelming. It's easy to sign up for a free trial or a service, forget about it, and then realize months later that you've been paying for something you don't even use. And that's why I'm so excited to tell you about Rocket Money, a personal finance app that helps you save time managing your finances by allowing you to cancel subscriptions, track spending, and create custom budgets, all in one place. The real value of Rocket Money is that it gives you a singular view of your finances. You can securely link all of your accounts to create a dashboard that monitors your overall financial health in a bird's eye view that saves you from having to manually check several different accounts. Plus, with real-time alerts for large transactions or upcoming bills, it's easy to stay financially aware. If you're looking for a better way to stay on top of your spending, go to rocketmoney.com/JimothyCool to get started for free. You can even unlock more features when you sign up for a premium trial. Check it out at rocketmoney.com/JimothyCool, linked below in the description and pinned comment. First, we have one of my favorites, visual design-wise, Darmanitan-Zen form. The Pokemon Darmanitan has 2 abilities: Sheer Force, which is a great offensive ability, and Zen Mode, which is the ability that allows it to change into an uncatchable Pokemon form. With the ability Zen Mode, if Darmanitan is below half of its HP in a battle, it will transform into this completely different Pokemon. This guy gains a secondary Psychic typing now, its appearance changes into a cool statue creature, and its stats change as well. It goes from a fast and frail physical attacker to now a slow, bulky special attacker. Its stats are pretty good actually, with a 105 base stat in HP, defense, and special defense. Very solid bulk right there, and a great 140 base special attack. I almost wish you could use this form as a separate entity, because I like it. I think it's cool and it would be good if it existed by itself. Unfortunately, in the context it does exist in, it's kind of bad. I mean, to transform into this Zen mode in the first place, you must be below half health as Darmanitan, which is kind of a hard thing to achieve. Darmanitan's base form is very frail. A lot of things will just one-hit KO this guy. It's not meant to take a hit. So first of all, activating the Zen mode is a bit difficult. Usually you have to substitute to achieve the Zen mode deliberately, which also means you have to hit the field without dying kind of hard in the first place. So even if you achieve the Zen mode though, now you're at half health, meaning you are half as good. You're closer to death's door. And you might think that that will be fine because you can just heal back up and take advantage of all the benefits of this Zen mode and its great stats at full health. But no, if you actually heal over the half HP threshold, you transform back into normal Darmanitan, and you're back to being incredibly frail again. So Darmanitan's Zen mode can only exist when it's below half HP, and therefore it always has half of an HP stat, which is very bad, obviously. And it certainly doesn't help that Fire Psychic is kind of a bad defensive dual typing. Even though your stats are great defensively, you're still going to end up dying to a lot of common attacks. and gaining the Psychic typing actually makes you more vulnerable to more things. Psychic does not cover any of the weaknesses of Fire type. It just adds more common weaknesses to worry about now, which is a problem. There's not much reason to use Zen mode on Darmanitan when its base form is just much better suited to running sheer force and just being a normal fast physical attacker. This alternate defensive form doesn't get to achieve its true potential when the way it's activated is so difficult to achieve and leaves it on death's door anyway. Now, even though this Zen Darmanitan isn't very good, there is another Zen Darmanitan, because of course, Galarian Darmanitan is an entity that exists, and it also has the Zen mode ability, which is activated the same way. If Galarian Darmanitan's health reaches below half, it will transform into Galarian Darmanitan-Zen mode. That's a lot of hyphens, isn't it? An alternate form of an alternate form, this one is. But Galarian Darmanitan-Zen mode is way better, because it's an offensively oriented Zen mode. Unlike base form Darmanitan-Zen mode, which is a bulky, slow special attacker, this guy, this frightening snowman, has a higher speed stat. It gets even faster, up to 135 base speed, which is extremely good. It also gets an enhanced attack stat, up to 160. These are absolutely elite offensive stats. And to top that off, it also gets a secondary fire typing now, which is bad defensively, of course, but offensively, it's incredible, allowing you to now have stab damage on fire type attacks and be even more threatening with more incredible coverage that does complement ice pretty well. Even though Galarian Darmanitan's other ability, Guerrilla Tactics, is probably overall better due to being more immediately powerful, having pretty much the choice band effect, locking you into a move and enhancing your attack, the Zen mode ability is a genuine option on Galarian Darmanitan because you could substitute down to 25% health and activate a berry like a Salak berry or a Lychee berry, and you would not be locked in. You would be able to switch moves freely, which is very good, and you would threaten more things. This is part of the reason Galarian Darmanitan was so overpowered, by the way, is it had two amazing offensive abilities that did different things, making it a little bit unpredictable on top of just being so overwhelmingly strong as a physical attacker. Everybody knows that a snowman is more powerful in combat than a statue. This is well known. A statue just sits there and achieves nothing, while a snowman is proactive and bold and brave and heads into battle without fear. Perhaps the most popular and well-known uncatchable Pokemon form is the famous Ash Greninja. Ash Greninja is usable only mid-battle via the ability Battle Bond. If a Greninja with Battle Bond earns a Pokemon KO, so they KO an enemy, they will transform into the very powerful Ash Greninja, which is pretty much just a better version of Greninja in every way. Ash Greninja has significant stat increases, turning it into a legendary level threat, with an unbelievable 145 base attack, 153 special attack, and 132 base speed, incredibly fast, on top of having such tremendous offensive stats. Ash Greninja also has a unique version of Water Shuriken. If it uses Water Shuriken, the base power will be 20 and it will always hit exactly 3 times. Ash Greninja's Water Shuriken is actually one of the strongest priority moves in the game, with its consistent power and damage output, plus the multi-hit effect, and being a stab special attack on top of that. Just excellent all around. Ash Greninja is obviously incredible in battle. It was one of the most dominant Pokemon in Gen 7 OU. This thing was everywhere, especially on rain teams where it could run a Choice Spec and spam Hydro Pump with a rain boost and destroy absolutely everything with overwhelming power. On top of that, it even has the priority boosted Water Shuriken in the rain, which is just... it's undeniable how good this is, but I kind of don't like the design of it. I think it makes Greninja a more one-dimensional Pokemon in Gen 7. Battle Bond became the far more popular ability in Gen 7 over the previously signature ability Protean, which I think is a way more interesting ability. Protean will change Greninja's type to match whatever move it uses, which is cool and dynamic and fun. Whereas Battle Bond just makes Greninja a straightforwardly overpowered, high-stat fella that just spams its stab moves. Protean Greninja is a Pokemon with more set variety, more possible options, more possible ways to use it, whereas Ash Greninja does not have that much variety. It's usually Choice Specs or Life Orb and just click Hydro Pump in the rain or something, or Water Shuriken. I never liked it, and I think people only like it because of the television show or something. I haven't seen the television show. I personally only watch good television shows like Twin Peaks and Hey Arnold. Maybe a little bit of Coco Melon if I'm feeling particularly sophisticated. I don't watch the Pokemon television show, it's not up to my high standard. So I don't have the story context for Ash Greninja, but in battle it's just what if Greninja had higher stats, which I consider to be poor game design and just direct power creep that is not interesting. Wishy-Washy is a cool guy. I like this fella. The only catchable version of Wishy-Washy is Pathetic Singular Fish version. This is the Pokemon that will appear in your box or party if you possess this creature. However, Wishy-Washy has the ability Schooling. If Wishy-Washy is above 1/4 of its max HP, it will transform into its School form, meaning as soon as you send it out into a battle, it will immediately transform. Wishy-Washy's base form has awful stats, akin to that of a not fully evolved Caterpie or something, but the Schooling form has excellent stats, with an incredible 140 in both of its offenses, 130 base defense and 135 base special defense. A mono water type with incredible stats like this probably seems amazing, especially because the form is easy to achieve in battle. As soon as you send the guy out, it transforms, and it only reverts back to the bad form if it's at 1/4 of its HP, which means it's probably almost dead anyway. Seems good. Unfortunately though, Wishy-Washy doesn't end up being a great competitive Pokemon. Despite being a nautical creature that can venture into the vast depths of the great ocean, its move pool is not a deep, vast ocean, but rather a shallow puddle on the side of the street. Wishy-Washy has a pretty bad move pool, with extraordinarily limited options. It has Scald, which is good, but it lacks other good offensive coverage options. And in terms of defensive utility, it has little to nothing. It has no healing options, no great status options. It has Toxic, but so does everything in the generations where this exists. And as a bulky attacker, that's the one role where the Schooling ability actually becomes a pretty big detriment, because bulky attackers are actually often hit into 1/4 of their HP, live, and then strike back, but Wishy-Washy will revert back to Pathetic Fish mode if it's struck down to 1/4. And be far less effective. So as a bulky attacker, it's not great. As a defensive Pokemon, it's not great because it doesn't have the moves for it. Plus, its low base HP is a big problem, meaning even though its defenses are great, it ends up taking pretty big damage anyway. There are simply better water types in existence. But I do respect the design of this. It's something interesting, something different, and visually quite stunning, like a whale made out of various fish come together to form one unit. Beautiful idea, a school of fish working together to become greater than the sum of their parts. If you admire Wishy-Washy's courage, please let me know in the comments, urgently. A very similar Pokemon to Wishy-Washy was introduced in Gen 9, actually. They returned to this concept of a initially pathetic water type transforming into something greater, with the Pokemon Palafin. Palafin's base form is a mere little dolphin. Definitely better stats than that of Wishy-Washy, who is a tiny fish. A dolphin is more powerful, but still not impressive, of course. But if Palafin simply switches out of the field and then back in, it will transform into a heroic alternate version of itself, Palafin's hero form, which has new and improved stats that are excellent. Most notably that 160 base attack, which is the main one that matters. It is very easy to turn Palafin into the hero form, even though you don't start the battle in this form like Wishy-Washy. Once you transform, you remain in the hero form for the remainder of the battle, and all you gotta do is switch out and back in competitive singles at least. An extraordinarily easy thing to do. Just lead with Palafin and then exit to a defensive Pokemon and bring it back in later. Now you're a hero with the stats of a damn legendary. Palafin Hero is incredibly good for straightforward reasons. With really solid speed, HP, and astronomical attack, this Pokemon was a menace for the brief period that it was allowed in OU. Not to mention that Palafin has a signature move Jet Punch, which is incredible. A priority attack with 60 power that is water type and physical. 60 is a good amount of power for a priority move. Most of them are only 40 power. If Aqua Jet is commonly used competitively, Jet Punch is directly superior. You have plenty of incredible water type stab options to utilize, like Flip Turn, which also pivots, Wave Crash for high damage output with 120 power and some recoil, plus coverage in the form of Zen Headbutt, Drain Punch, Ice Punch, etc. There are shades of Ash Greninja here, aren't there? An alternate mid-battle form that is easy to activate and overwhelmingly strong. In a very one-dimensional way, the guy has high stats and he clicks stab moves. He also has an above-average priority move, just like Greninja did. I think that Palafin is a more interesting Pokemon in doubles, where switching out and back in is a bit more of a cost. It's harder to achieve this because doubles games go faster. More is happening on the field at once because there are more Pokemon active, so activating this hero form is a bit more of a genuine feat than it is in singles. And even once you do, the hero form is less powerful since more Pokemon in the field can target you, and your moves can only target one Pokemon at a time. I will say, I do really like Palafin's visual design. It's pretty cool in both forms. The baby dolphin form and the hero form are both quite inspired. Another series of well-known, uncatchable Pokemon forms are the different weather variants of Cast Form. The only version of Cast Form you can possess is its default normal type form, but in battle it will transform into various different versions of itself. In the sun, it becomes a fire type with this delightful visual, the sunny form. In the rain, it becomes a water type and takes on its rainy form, looking like a raindrop. Very beautiful. And in the hail, or snow, it will transform to the snowy form, which is an ice type, also rather an elegant creature here. But much to the dismay of Cast Form fans globally, this might be the worst of all non-possessable alternate form Pokemon. All of these Cast Forms, including the default one, have a base stat distribution of just 70 in every stat, which is very low. Far too low to be very good and competitive. This Pokemon is just bad, and it always has been. Even when it came out, it is ranked in the lowest tier of ZU, and it has remained there for its whole life, unfortunately. Cast Form really existed as like a tech demo, to teach the player about the concept of weather synergy. That was its purpose, and I think it serves that purpose. You can probably use it in a playthrough and do something with it. But in a real battle context, this will achieve very little. Unfortunately, just because of its low base stats and not much else. That's the biggest problem. I suppose there's also a fundamental problem with transforming into a different type mid-battle. It's a lot of setup, and you would rather just run a better weather synergy like Chlorophyll, Swift Swim, or Sand Rush, or something like that, or Rain Dish. There's far better weather synergies than changing the type on your Cast Form. This could only really be good if Cast Form had great stats. That's the only time I could see this being any good. And that's not the case, is it? This is one of the Pokemon that I would most like to see a new evolution for and an expansion of the design, because the design could be really interesting, especially if they give each of these different Cast Form variants some distinct ability when they're in their new form. That would be awesome, and give Cast Form real competitive value, potentially. Its move pool is not too bad, it's got some good options. It's just held back by its terrible stats. I think there's real potential here for an incredibly interesting Pokemon if they return to this frankly forgotten old fellow. Weird little balloon creature that they've neglected for years. Another fun mid-battle transformation is Meloetta's Pirouette form. Meloetta is only possessable with its base form, which is a normal psychic type Pokemon with Serene Grace, and a special leaning stat distribution with high special attack and special defense. But if in a battle, Meloetta utilizes the move Relic Song, which is a normal type special attack, it will transform into its Pirouette form. which has a different typing. This is a normal fighting type Pokemon, and it has the stats shuffled around a little bit, now with 128 in its attack and its speed, completely transforming the Pokemon in its identity to now a fast physical attacker. This is quite a cool alternate form. It's tied to a move rather than an ability, which is quite unique. And it's also a totally different variant of the Pokemon that is opposite, you could say, to its original base state. Unfortunately though, this is an incredibly awkward alternate form to utilize in a battle. It's really weird to be base form Meloetta and use a special attack to transform into a physical attacker. Especially because Relic Song itself is not a great move. You have to use this move to achieve a new form, and the new form can't exactly use Relic Song either. A fast physical attacker like Meloetta Pirouette doesn't want Relic Song on its moveset, it's a total waste, so it takes ages to achieve this Pirouette form, and then you are wasting a move slot, and then after that, you're a good physical attacker. I mean, Meloetta Pirouette has good stats here, solid move pool too, with options like close combat and U-turn and such. But it's just way better to just run a normal fast physical attacker like Terrakion, for example. You can just put Terrakion on your team and then you don't have to do all this funny business of using a move to become Terrakion. Terrakion is just as he is. I actually think it would be really fun if they made Meloetta Pirouette form catchable or possessable and usable without having to transform mid-battle. If you could just start the battle as Pirouette form. I don't even think that would be that powerful, and it would probably be a fun Pokemon to use. I think this Pokemon would probably be OU ranked in Gen 5 at least, if it was usable without having to transform into it mid-battle. It is the mid-battle transformation that makes it awkward and difficult to actually take advantage of, and Meloetta is primarily just used in its base state, not even bothering with its signature mechanic of transformation. It would rather just be a solid, bulky special attacker in the UU tier than anything else. Regrettable that its unique mechanic is just bad and competitive, but I respect the attempt at something unique, I suppose. I respect the attempt. Zygarde is a Pokemon with an extraordinarily powerful mid-battle transformation that cannot be possessed outside of battle. Zygarde is a Legendario with the ability Power Construct. At half of your max HP or less, you will transform into Zygarde's complete form, which you'll notice has double the amount of HP. Its base HP is an unbelievable 216. All the other stats are similar though, except for the speed, which is 10 points lower, actually. But the point of this alternate form, apart from looking like a damn Evangelion, is that it's pretty much an extra health bar. When you're at a half HP and you transform into this form, your base HP doubles, and therefore you will heal in the middle of the battle. You will gain more health than you had previously, which makes Zygarde an incredible setup Pokemon in Gen 7 and 8 Ubers. And this is even better than just being a heal, because you keep the base HP permanently for the remainder of the game. And if you were to use rest to heal back up, which is a good option on Zygarde, you're back to full HP with this massive base HP stat. So you become far bulkier. Clearly outstanding for obvious reasons, especially with all of Zygarde's other advantages like its great Dragon Ground typing, and the excellent move Thousand Arrows, which is a ground type attack that can hit flying types, a truly game-breaking concept. Terrapagos is a new Pokemon introduced in Gen 9, a new Legendario, that has a really weird version of an alternate form mechanic, and I'll explain why it's weird. This is Terrapagos' base form, the form that you are allowed to possess as a trainer. It is a little turtle who is not very powerful. His base stats are low. But this turtle has the ability Terra Shift. In battle, if this is sent out, it will simply transform into the Terrapagos terrestrial form immediately, which has far better stats than the great ability Terra Shell as well, which makes all moves ineffective against it if it's at full HP. Really, really amazing ability that is basically a superior version of multi-scale. But what's weird about this is the fact that this base form Terrapagos can never actually exist in a battle, because as soon as it's sent out, it transforms into a different form. So even if all of its base stats were just 1, it would make no difference, because this guy never actually exists. Even if wheezing is on the field with neutralizing gas, Terra Shift cannot be disabled by neutralizing gas. This will still transform into Terrestrial Terrapagos, bypassing neutralizing gas, which usually disables the effects of abilities. So even though in your possession in the game you have this little turtle, really this little turtle is not even real. Because as soon as you send it out, it becomes somebody else. It would be like if Rattata had an ability where as soon as you send it out onto the field, it transforms into Rayquaza instantly, and this ability cannot be cancelled or nullified or stopped from occurring. This would make Rattata an Uber's level Pokemon and much more powerful, but Rattata itself would cease to exist, wouldn't it? Rattata would basically just be Rayquaza, and its individual spirit would be vanquished from existence. Tragically. So this Terrestrial Terrapagos form is basically the default form, and it is very good with its ability Terra Shell, as mentioned earlier, and its great move pool, and even the utility of Rapid Spin and other such things. But Terrapagos actually has another in-battle form. The in-battle form can become a different in-battle form. Can you believe what they're doing? If Terrapagos Terrestrial version terrestrializes Stella into the Stella Terra type, it will transform into the Terrapagos Stella form. Am I even speaking English at this point? Did you understand that? Every word of what I just said was completely true. Stella is a new Terra type that has no defensive properties but simply enhances offensive damage output from stab moves temporarily once, and also can be its own type that is neutral against everything and super effective against other Pokemon that have terrestrialized. So that's what that is. Terrapagos Stella version has much higher stats. It has a way higher HP stat and a higher special attack stat. It is incredibly good. It also has a new ability called Terraform Zero, and this ability will end the effects of all weather and terrain once per battle, which is kind of cool actually, a bit of anti-weather and terrain technology that can happen in the middle of a turn because the form change brings this ability into existence and ends the weather and terrain on that turn. Pretty fun. Also, the move Terra Starstorm will change type. In the prior form, it is a normal type special attack with 120 power, but it changes now into a Stellar type attack when you're the Stellar form, meaning it is neutral against everything in the game. Quite good actually. Plus, it is super effective against enemies that have terrestrialized, no matter what type they are. Actually a pretty damn good move. The Stellar form I quite like. I think it's got a cool cost to it, because you can only Terra once per game, of course. And you will sacrifice that flexibility if you spend the Terra on this Pokemon. I like a unique form tied to a mechanic like this, as well as the new form having an ability that is different to the original. In some ways, Terra Shell is a better ability, but this has a 1 per battle consumable use that disables weather and terrain, which is quite cool. And turning Terra Starstorm into a Stellar type attack, also quite cool. Even though I don't love the Stellar type as a mechanic, this incarnation of it is fun, I think. Although I do think that the visual design of Terrapagos Stella is a bit busy. I mean, there's a million things happening on the screen. In this form, it's got a big sphere under it and gems surrounding it, plus a hat on. And the actual being itself is rather small compared to all the other crap around it. Perhaps they went a bit too far on the visual noise occurring in this form. But everything else about it I do enjoy. Some say that the entire universe exists on the back of a giant turtle swimming around in the cosmic ocean. I forgot who said that. Somebody did though. And I think that could be true. I think that could be damn true. Something to think about, turtle related. Something to ponder. And the most powerful, unobtainable mid-battle transformation in all of Pokemon, I think, would have to be Ultra Necrozma. A completely insane Pokemon. Perhaps we can be thankful that this is not obtainable by conventional means. This is also a Pokemon tied to a generational mechanic that can only be used once this mechanic is expended. Necrozma Duskmane or Dawnwings can possess the Ultra Necrosium Z, and when a Necrozma Duskmane utilizes Ultra Necrosium Z's Ultra Burst Blast, it will then transform into Necrozma Ultra. Forgive me if I sound completely insane, with all those hyphens and mechanics and everything I just said. It's all true, I promise. All of that is true, I swear to you. Ultra Necrozma is a Psychic Dragon-type Pokemon. a type change from both of the other Necrozma forms that can become Ultra Necrozma. It also has a far more offensively geared stat distribution with an increased speed up to 129 and an incredible 167 in both of its offensive stats, as well as a decent 97 in all of its defensive stats considering its great speed and attacking stats. It also gets a new ability, Neuro Force, which means that its super effective attacks against the target do 1.25x damage, which is a really amazing offensive ability, kind of similar to the Expert Belt item. Now, I played a lot of Gen 7 Ubers, and I always found this guy frustrating, not necessarily because of it, but because it is an option on Necrozma Duskmane, who is a Pokemon with a trillion different options. You can just run Necrozma Duskmane as a normal, bulky physical attacker, or weakness policy sweeper, or various things in between. It's an incredibly diverse Pokemon, and then it's also possible that the Necrozma Duskmane could use its Z move and transform into Ultra Necrozma and be a whole different guy. So the fact that it can transform into a whole different guy on top of all of its other viable sets made it perhaps the hardest Pokemon to predict what it's going to do in any metagame I've ever played. So that's the reason I find Necrozma Ultra a bit frustrating. But Necrozma Ultra itself is kind of weirdly balanced. The fact that a Veltal was in the tier made Necrozma Ultra more manageable. The real problem with Necrozma Ultra is just that you don't know if the damn Metal Lion guy is going to be Ultra Necrozma or not, because it has a million different possible things it can be. That's where the issue lies, I think. I suppose I like Ultra Necrozma, now that I'm thinking about it. It is kind of an insane visual, though, that doesn't even look like a Pokemon. I've made this comment many times, but this looks like a Shin Megami Tensei demon or something. It's hard to believe that this exists in the same franchise as Furret. These look like they're from different universes, but it does exist, and we must reckon with that. I suppose I don't mind them going insane power creep crazy time when, at least, this version of Crazy Power Creep Legendary is tied to an interesting in-battle interaction that has a punish, and also changes the Pokemon significantly with new stats and a new ability. It's not like Ash Greninja, where it's a more straightforward way to activate the alternate form, and the alternate form is just the same guy but better. This is at least completely changing the identity of the original guy and turning it into something other. If you're gonna make something insanely broken, at least make it interesting. Ultra Necrozma is certainly interesting. But wait a minute, folks, there's a secret, ultra-powerful mid-battle form that you've never seen before, because it's never been activated up to this point. And that is, of course, for astute Pokemon knowers, the legendary Makago Horse Prime form. And this is very interesting. Makago by itself is not a remarkable Pokemon, fire rock type with poor stats and such. Considered terrible. But if it is the year of the Fire Horse in battle, Makago will transform into its Makago Horse Prime form, which is considered the most powerful entity to ever exist. And folks, the year of the Fire Horse is soon to be underway, and this might just shift the entire Pokemon metagame beyond what we've ever seen before, so be very careful. I just want to warn you in advance, because not a lot of people know about this. No other channel is going to give you this deep insight, okay? Just be very careful out there when Makago Horse Prime hits the scene, because you're not going to want to be caught unawares. And there you have it, folks. Various mid-battle forms, analyzed for their value to society. Many of them are valued, others not so much. But a universal truth among all of them is that they cannot be possessed by a mere human Pokemon trainer. And to think that you could possess Morpeko Hungry form in your own hands is human folly. Don't be so stupid next time and think that you could possess Ice-Q Ice Face version. It's just not possible for you, despite what you might want. The moral of this video is that human hubris and greed knows no end. That's the moral. Also, forgive me for my voice today. I'm a little bit under the weather. Hopefully I didn't sound too bad. And thank you for watching as always, folks. Who's your favorite mid-battle form? Let me know down below. Thank you very much.